Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time for Steven. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1986 film, One Crazy Summer. Now, One Crazy Summer, it's from Savage Steve Holland. This is a guy who did Better Off Dead with John Cusack as well. And also had Curtis Armstrong, who was Butter and Revenge of the Nerds, and he was a Better Off Dead. He returns here. The film also has Demi Moore, as you see there. You got Bobcat Goldthwait, who is in some of the later Police Academy films, 2, 3, and 4. He was in Burglar with Whoopi Goldberg. And a few other recognizable people. Mark Metcalf, he was one of the villains in Animal House. John Cusack has a small role. He was Sloth in The Goonies, and he was a football player. He has a small role in this. Let's see. Was it Joel Murray? Who I think is related to Bill Murray, I believe. Like I said, there's a few recognizable people in this. And it's one of those films that's a live-action cartoon. Just like Better Off Dead. I thought Better Off Dead was funnier. I thought Better Off Dead was a bit wittier and a bit smarter. But this one is still a crazy, fun bit of live-action cartoon. I mean, the Savage Steve Holland... For those who don't know, Savage Steve Holland was an animator, first and foremost. So then he got into films, and I know John Cusack hates these movies. Now, there's a commentary here with Bobcat Goldthwait, Curtis Armstrong, and ride director Savage Steve Holland. I can't remember if it was this commentary, because I watched the film, I haven't had a chance to revisit the commentary. I can't remember if it was in that commentary or maybe just a separate review, interview, where he mentioned that during the screening of Better Off Dead or something, John Cusack confronted him and said, "You made the worst movie I've ever been in. You ruined my career. What the hell are you doing? Are you out of your mind?" And the director was just like, "What?" And just was out of it. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, you lied to me. You made such a big piece of shit. Well, then, within my mind, I'm sitting there going, then why did you work with the guy at the end if you hated the movie so much? So why were you in this again? And you could tell, like, John Cusack I still liked in this movie, but he feels a bit more low-key compared to Better Off Dead. I don't know if he did this because it was a contract obligation, or if he did this because he just needed another job, or what the deal is, but... Well, I don't think John Cusack did a bad job in it, but it just felt a little bit more low-key compared to Better Off Dead. And maybe because of that reason, I don't know. But yeah, Cusack thinks these are some of the worst films he's done. Which I'm sitting there going, have you seen your past 5-10 years of work, dude? I have. Let me tell you something. They're way, way worse than these movies. And Better Off Dead, to me, is a great comedy. And this is a fun one. So, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what his problem is. I know John Cusack hates most of his movies. I think except Say Anything, Grosse Point Blank, High Fidelity, and probably one or two more. But he'll like hate everything else he did. So anyway, getting off that, the setup is you have this animated opening where John Cusack's narrating about love, and yeah, animation of a rhino, and love is blind, and Cupid can't hit anything. and these little bunnies are assholes and fuck with him. So the rhino gets a gun and shoots them all. And John Cusack stops and goes, "This is supposed to be a love story, not Rambo, not a Rambo bloodbath." And he stops because he's a cartoonist wanting to hopefully get into colleges after graduation. Now, real quick, like, if you notice, two of the bunnies are Siskel and Ebert. The reason being, and you see this more prominently at the very end of the film, because it bookends with the animated material. The director, hated Siskel and Ebert's review of Better Off Dead, so he's like, I'm going to put them as bunnies and fuck with them. Now, when I say this is a live-action cartoon, what I mean by that is, okay, they have graduation. John Cusack and his buddy, you know, when you have graduation, and I forget what you call the hats, and you throw them up. Well, one of them falls down and impales someone in the back. And it's a psych dad. And you're like, what? And they run away. Or Bobcat Goldthwait at one point gets stuck in a Godzilla costume. Someone drops a cigar in the mouth and he's trying to get out. And so while he's trying to get out, there's like a movie set and with miniatures, and he's accidentally stepping on stuff and he's trying to play out like a Godzilla movie. When we first see Demi Moore, she's being chased by this group of people. One of them is John Cusack, who I swear comes out of the water with like a multicolored hair with, I think, maybe a fish stuck in it or something. Oh, this little girl who's got this dog who was mangled a bit. These other girls are bullying her. And she's the younger sister of John Cusack's buddy. And they're doing all this stuff with their faces. And they're told, if you do that long enough, they don't sit there forever. Which is a phrase I remember hearing when I was a kid. If you make that phrase, you know, I think even Jim Carrey referenced it in Liar Liar. Because his son goes, if I make this face, will it stick? No. In fact, some people make good money doing that. Because it's like Jim Carrey kind of referencing himself and his career. But the little girls keep doing that, but then when someone hits them on the back, and they're stuck there, and they're freaking out. So it's this they have their faces stuck up, these little girls, little asshole bullies, and they can't move. Oh my god, our face is stuck here forever. Or when they go, what was it, the place they went to? Nantucket, the annual Nantucket Regatta, in order to enjoy the summer. And they try to find Curtis Armstrong. I thought you were supposed to get shells, thinking seashells. And he's like, yeah, I am. But they're actual military shells, because it's an Air Force target beach. It's pretty much what it's called. It's one of those movies that has a zany energy to it. That mixed in with the cast is why I did enjoy it. Now, some people may be annoyed by it or might not find the bits funny. But I did. Like John Cusack, despite his feelings, I always liked him as an actor. Some would say he could play the lovable loser well. Yeah, I Get Better Off Dead, I thought was very funny. $2, I want my $2. Or the guys nearby, one's talking, what's the Howard Cosell, and they tried to race. Yeah, Better Off Dead's hilarious. But yeah, I love John Cusack and Con Air, despite how he thinks of it. 1408. I mean, I got 1408 right here. The Blu-ray that's overseas. This has both endings, including the ending I prefer. But I always liked him. Demi Moore, I was one of my favorite actresses. Always loved her. And Ghost, G.I. Jane. Again, literally my top 5 favorite actresses. So always nice to see her in there. She's just naturally strong presence. Not forced. And it's believable as well. You have the asshole preppy guy. That's not William Zabka. It's not Billy Zabka. And then his dad is played by Mark Metcalf from Animal House. And then their grandpa is played by William Hickey, who was the Puppet Master at the beginning of the first Puppet Master movie. He was the... What's his name? In National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. He had the Stody and accidentally burnt the tree down. Like I said, Bobcat Goldthwait and another character are brothers, and they're there to either look over this movie set that's doing... What was the name of the movie? It's about a giant killer dolphin with rabies. So obviously it's a take on like the Jaws sequels that were coming out. And that's the thing, like, being a fan of this era and just enjoying a lot of these characters' personalities. Bobcat Goldthwait, a lot of people could be very annoyed by that, but I can't help it. Even to this day, whenever he did that shtick, where he's like kind of yelling and like talking, but you can understand what he's saying. Hey, I don't know how to go with it. Yeah, something about it is like, let me tell you a story about a little fat boy. And then I said, why are you so fat? I beat up the shit out of him. I didn't tell you a little story about a little fat boy. And when I got to him, I grabbed him and said, why are you so fat? Did I beat the shit out of him? I can't help it. That shtick just always made me laugh. I get why it had a small expiration date. Because it definitely didn't save Hot to Trot, but nothing could have saved that piece of shit movie. But Police Academy sequels and this movie, and yeah, I thought it was one of the better bits in Burglar. I still enjoyed. Now, he became a director. He directed Robin Williams in one of his last films, Will's Greatest Dad. He directed one of those found footage Bigfoot movies, which I wasn't a fan of, but, it's nice that he's getting work still. Like I said, I do want to re-listen to the commentary on this sometime, when I get free time on it. I enjoyed the zany, energetic fun. If you go into this, either you accept the fact it's a live-action cartoon, or it annoys the piss out of you and you don't end up liking it. This, I accepted it and I thought it was fun. The cast worked well together. A lot of people recognize, again, Curtis Armstrong. Nice to see him in there. It was funny to see Bobcat Goldthwait stuck in the Godzilla suit. There's a bit where the preppy bully's girlfriend goes out with John Cusack. They go to a drive-in, and they look up. It's a film made for the movie, where it's this wannabe horror film with a guy and a chainsaw. But it's about, you took my girlfriend. And so John Cusack kind of sees him as that character. Is like, oh, I need to get the hell out of here. But I thought that the movie within the movie, I thought was pretty funny. I would say at times it does feel like the supporting cast maybe upstages John Cusack, because at times John Cusack does play a bit too low key, and he's playing the straight guy, as in the I'm not zany, I'm not crazy, I'm not pooty, I'm just the more serious guy. So he comes off as a little bit less interesting compared to what Bobcat Goldthwait is doing, what Curtis Armstrong is doing, what some of these other people are doing. To commend the movie, it even made a fart joke tolerable. And if you know me, you know I hate fart jokes. The reason it made it tolerable is that John Cusack's buddy is stuck in the sand, and someone put a chair above him, and someone sits down, and the guy starts eating chili, and his buddy's like, no, don't do that. But then it cuts away, without hearing any of the stupid sound effects. The friends go, where's he? Oh my god, we gotta go get him. And the next time you see him, there's an ambulance and there's paramedics and they're fighting over who's going to give them out resuscitation at Bobcat, and John has to hold them back. Just the paramedic's like, you do it, no, you do it. That is actually a clever way of doing a fart joke. Because you're doing it without doing a... We're just going to go... Isn't that funny, kids? No, not to me. Never did as a kid or even... So, again, the fact that it actually made a fart joke clever without doing the sound effects, I gotta give credit where credit's due. And Sally, he did one more film in the 80s, and then after that he just did a bunch of these films that were just lame, just cheap. I can't remember what the hell the names of the movies were. Nothing up to the level of these movies in terms of creativity. I think because, Better Off Dead didn't do as well as it should have. This film completely bombed. And I think that third film bombed. I think that... I say killed his career, but he did make more movies. But maybe killed his zest. I mean, I can't speak for him, but maybe it's like, well, fuck, man. I tried to do what I could in these first two movies, and people didn't take to it, and I'm just going to be a gun for hire. I think he did a lot more, like, sort of, I don't know if it's like Disney, like little teen, for made for Disney Channel, like those type of movies. It seemed. Could be wrong on that. But yeah, there were a lot of moments that made me smirk and chuckle, like when the bullies confront John Cusack and Demi Moore's trying to control the situation. Well, I don't know fine, but I know Dow. What's Dow? Dow? Dow's the company that makes mace. It shoots the mace in their face. Also, it was nice to see, real quick, like, during the Godzilla bit, one of the people is Donald Lee, who I guess apparently he owns the bank who Demi Moore, or works at the bank that Demi Moore has to pay the money because she's trying to save this house that her family owned, but the bad guys want because they want to tear it down to make bullshit. Donald Lee was in Big Trouble in Little China. He was the guy who when Jack Burton and Dennis Dunn first escape from Lopan, and then they're in the restaurant, and Donald Lee's the guy trying to explain to Jack Burton what's going on. Ultimately, he joins them in. He's the third guy when... Remember where Jack Burton is trying to shoot, and then he finally does it, and Donald Lee's the guy asking, "The first time you ever played someone?" Of course not. So it's Donald Lee and the sidekick, who's really the lead, but sidekick Dennis Dunn, fighting the two ladies while Jack Burton's trying to get the prisoners out and trying to control on them. Donald Lee is the third guy in that scenario. So it was nice to see him in another movie in this case. I forgot he was in this. Also, it's kind of funny how so many of these films in the 80s, they always end with some kind of sailing race. Just like John Candy's Summer Rental, Up the Creek, this movie. There's a lot of movies that, that for some reason, like, sailing, I guess, was just a new thing that get people excited or interested in, so have a sailing race. I mean, I guess, to bring in some action in this location. Maybe they give some visual touch, I don't know. Something you don't really see nowadays. Maybe because, it's too much of a pain as a shoe in the water, but the 80s, like, we don't give a fuck. And things work out for the end. So like I said, if you like Better Off Dead and the director's work, if you like this cast, John Cusack, Demi Moore, Bobcat Goldthwait, Curtis Armstrong, if you want just a zany, silly movie that does not take itself seriously, I definitely think this is worth a look. I think it is fun. I keep repeating that word fun because that's what it's meant to be. Sorry, John Cusack. I like High Fidelity, but I would say this: I would put this a Better Off Dead over High Fidelity. I know Jack Black benches Evil Dead 2, and that's cool, but I don't. I like High Fidelity, but I would put these above it. I know you love that film so much, but because the pacing works in this. I mean, this movie is only 93 minutes long. It's rated PG, so there's nothing too harsh for the kids who want to see it. But I always liked the design too. I thought that was a cool design. Which the theatrical poster, that design is much bigger. Like I said, John Cusack, I wish he was a bit more loose, but I think it's because, and I believe that story Savage Steve Holland said was true, that after Better Off Dead, he was pissed off. And again, maybe he was signed onto the project before, and he couldn't get out of it. I don't know what the whole deal was. And yeah, I don't know if, I'm sure in the commentary they don't talk too much about that, but yeah. I know this got a Blu-ray, but I don't think there's anything really that new on the Blu-ray, so there you go. But with that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.